Hey everyone, Trent down here at Vigno Studios, and Rings of Power is ass. Before I get really into it, here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to go through a spoiler-free review, going through the episodes, production value, all that jazz. And then about halfway through, when I get done with the spoiler-free, I will get into the spoilers. That way, if you want to just listen and watch the spoiler free, you can click off of it when it's done, or if you want to stick around and watch the spoilers, you can. But that's how I'm going to do this, and let's get into it. When I heard that Amazon got the rights to make a Lord of the Rings show based on the Silmarillion, the Second Age, before Lord of the Rings even and Hobbit even happened, I was very excited for it because the Amazon had done quite a few good things. They had The Legend of Vox Machina based on Critical Role. They had Invincible by Robert Kirkman. They also had The Boys, and all of them were very successful. Not just successful, but they were good. As in good voice acting, good production value, good stories. It was very good. It was really good green flags for me and plus Amazon had it. It's Amazon's money. I think they would do a good job. When I heard that Peter Jackson was in talks of doing this, I was also excited because I love the movies, and I know I'm going to get hit with a bunch of blasphemy here, but I've not actually read every book yet. I am planning to, actually. I am in the middle of reading Fellowship of the Ring as we speak, but I've not actually read all of them to their entirety. So, I know people might be in the comments and saying I'm not a big hardcore Tolkien fan, but besides the point, I am a big fan of Tolkien. I research all of his stuff. I love him to death. I love his work to death. The movies especially are probably my favorite movies of all time, aside from The Godfather, and which I did see. And first episode, I see the trailers, and at first I thought, alright, this is alright. I can see they're doing a little creative liberties here, but it's not too bad. The Boys had a lot of creative liberties. It's not accurate to the comics by a huge margin. And then I started watching the show. Just from my voice, you could tell that this is a kind of a train wreck. This is a train wreck of a show. Let's get into it. So, okay. Rings of Power. Let's start with the production value, actually. Production value, here's one positive I will give this show credit for, is the production value. The soundtrack, provided brilliantly by Bear McCreary, who is responsible for Godzilla King of the Monsters and the 2018 God of War. My bad. Yes, the 2018 God of War game. And I love the game. I actually did enjoy King of the Monsters, Godzilla. So, already a great start, great W to have him on board. Howard Shore, the composer of the soundtrack of the movies, was going to be a part of it. He did the opening sequence, which I thought was really cool. I actually did enjoy the music. I also did enjoy the opening sequence, the title thing. I thought that was very well animated. The cinematography is very well done. I actually really like the cinematography. It's really well done. Not as good as, say, like the Batman or the Lord of the Rings movies or Hobbit. But the cinematography was pretty good. I actually really enjoyed it. The shots were beautiful. Blue screen, I could tell at times that it was a blue screen and not at the same time. The acting. This is where it starts getting a little spotty because the script for these episodes is either has probably some pretty good lines or it's dog shite. And I want to say heads up on any profanity I might say, because it's just, I have a lot to say. The script for each of these episodes is not Emmy worthy. They're not Oscar worthy either. They could definitely be rewritten. It feels like the script was not written with Tolkien in mind. It's like they didn't even bother reading the books. That's actually a big crux of what this show is, of what these shows are. What this show actually is, this whole season, is as if the developers, the producers, didn't even read the goddamn books. It's that bad. I'm not going to get into it just yet. Other stuff. Acting at times is alright. I forget the actors' names, but Elrond, as we know, Elrond's in the show. Durin's in the show. Galadriel's in the show. All that stuff, because it's based on the Second Age and all, yeah. But for example, Elrond's actor, Durin's actor, they are very well done. They were great choices for the characters as younger versions of the characters. I think they did a really good job, especially from what the show is. The biggest disappointment is Galadriel. I don't know what the direction was for her character or for her actress, but a lot of her lines don't have that punch. Or I should say it's just not that great at all. Every time she's on screen and she says a line, I'm like, come on, give me something. And that's another thing they really messed up on, was the characterization of Tolkien's work. But other than the cinematography, soundtrack, some of the acting, costume design was actually not too horrible. There were some instances, but it's not overall that bad. Now, episode 1 and 8 are the only episodes I kind of cared about, with a snippet of like 7. That was about it. You can see where I'm going with theirs. I can't think of any other good thing about this show. Now let's get to the bad. Like I said, this is going to be a spoiler-free right now. As I said, the acting's pretty bad. At a lot of times, the acting's just that bad. It's mainly the writing. It's like I said, it's like they didn't even read the books or watch the movies, because they are a masterclass on how to adapt a book. That and The Godfather, for example, because The Godfather was a novel before it was in film. Which, when I heard that Amazon said that we're going to be writing our own story, that was a red flag for me. That was a massive red flag for me, because you are setting this whole show on the timeline when the Rings of Power were made. Your whole show takes place during the Silmarillion. This whole thing is what your show's based on, and you're telling your own story? Why? You have the literal blueprint for a brilliant adaptation. You have the literal blueprint to make this great, and you don't do it. You have some instances where it alludes to the Silmarillion or to the other works by J.R.R. and Christopher Tolkien, but you don't go with it. You tell a bad fan fiction. That's what this feels like, is a bad fan fiction of Tolkien's work. I would know, because I have written fan fictions and I hated it when I went back and read them. Thankfully, I don't do that much anymore. But that's what it feels like, is a bad fan fiction. The script feels like that. They make original characters for this show. Why? Why do you do this? You don't need to. You already have legendary characters. Just follow the damn source material and make it good. You don't need to add your own character for a already legendary piece of fiction. You don't need that. There's only like 2 characters I care about in this show. And that's Elrond, Durin, and maybe the Harfoots. The Hobbits. Because they call them Harfoots. Okay, they call them Harfoots. And they have like... You can tell how I feel about this whole thing. So, I'm going to briefly go over each episode, okay? Mainly, like, pacing-wise. That's another big problem, actually, is the pacing of this show is so bad. I watched the first episode, and I was actually intrigued by it. Because I go in with an open mind. I'm going to give it a fair shot. Let's see how it is. How bad is it? How bad is this show? I watched the first episode. I'm actually intrigued by it. And obviously some instances here and there, but turn that down. And it sets it up pretty well. Okay, we get Galadriel's backstory. It's kind of just a random flashback for some reason. We get the setup. Morgoth is defeated. I'm pretty sure because Silmarillion is about, Sauron and all that nonsense. If you know the Silmarillion. I don't want to get too much into spoilers. Kind of already did that, my bad. So, first episode sets this up pretty well. Each episode is about an hour plus long. That is either too much time or not enough. And when I say not enough, it is because the second episode goes nowhere. It is an hour long of boredom. Second episode, I actually checked my phone twice. Because I watched both the first episode and the second episode in one night. Because I had the time. I watched this like 9 o'clock at night. So I was like, I'll stay up. Watched the first 2 episodes. I was bored during the second episode. Nothing happened. Nothing significant happened. It was just boring. Third episode happens. More stuff happens. About, like, Galadriel does more stuff. And then we get more setup. So it kind of picks up, I should say. Fourth episode gets a little bit better with its pacing. It's like, alright, it's keeping the momentum the third episode kept on. And the last 30 minutes was just boring. Nothing happened. Fifth episode pissed me off. Fifth episode was probably the worst one of the 8 episodes. There are 8 episodes here. That's 8 hours plus. Fifth episode happens, and I'll get into this in the spoiler section, okay? But it was boring. It was bad. It was bad writing. Episode 5 had probably the worst script I have ever listened to, ever watched in a series. And I've seen some pretty shitty scripts. Then episode 6 and 7, they about do the same thing. They set it up. They set up more stuff. And they kind of conclude a couple plot points here or there, but not so much so that it's like, well, you still got more to do. Like, what was the point of this? But it still picks up, and as a matter of fact, I think if I remember correctly, like episode 6 was like the faster of the 2. Episode 6 is where things go full throttle. They go straight into it, and it's just, why? Episode 6 happens, and it's just about 10-20 minutes in, it's boring, it's so slow, and then it just kicks in the high gear in the bad way. I actually like it when shows actually, say screw the slowness and they, go for it in one instance. Though that's also a bad thing. It's one of the things I criticized in our Black Adam review. Is I didn't like the opening because of how fast it was, but then it slowed down and it was actually better paced. Here, it doesn't work that way. It kicks in the high gear. It gives you this whole like, oh, this is how everything happens. Deal with it. Episode 7 happens. You get a little bit more. It's actually more endearing. I actually like episode 7 to a point. But it didn't help much at all. Episode 8 is where everything kind of redeemed. Quote unquote. Redeemed. Ugh. It pains me just to say that. Episode 8, I did enjoy parts. Just parts of it. The acting got way better, thankfully. Just thank God. And it was just a bad... how it ended was a little bitter. Just left a bad taste in my mouth. And Amazon has... I just remembered something. Amazon has 5 seasons planned for this. Think about that. They have 5 seasons for this show already planned. What are you going to do? You kind of already fucked up. You kind of already fucked this up. So what else are you going to do? And people are probably going to ask me, am I going to still watch it? Yes, I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Because I want to see how it goes, just to see how it goes. That's what I want to do. Okay? Yeah, crucify me for watching this. And then yeah, I'll watch it. But probably not going to enjoy it. So be tuned for seasons 2 plus reviews on that. So, is there anything else that's spoiler free that I can get into without it? I guess I can talk about the acting a bit for the individual characters without revealing the big plot points. Like I said, Galadriel's actress, she's fine. She's fine. She does look like give credit where credit's due, she does look like a younger Cate Blanchett, who's Galadriel in the films. And, yeah, her acting's fine. It's fine. I cannot stress this enough. The best actor, in my opinion, was actually Elrond's actor. If I'm not mistaken, I believe his actor was also young Ned Stark in Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, I'm actually on Game of Thrones. I'm on season 3 with Grayson and Trevor. And who knows? We might do a video on that. Who knows? But from what I've heard, that he's young Ned Stark in an episode or something. So he was probably the best actor in the show. That and another character named Halbrand. His actor I actually did like. Charlie Vickers. That's his name for Halbrand, not Elrond. I don't remember Elrond's. But Charlie Vickers was really good. I actually did enjoy his acting. But I can't get too much into it because the characterization will lead into spoilers, and I don't want to do that right now. Is there anything else for spoiler free? No, I don't think so. Well, I'll give my final verdict here. So, if you guys just want to watch the spoiler free, I'll give you my final verdict here. For spoiler free, my final verdict for this series, I don't know. It's when I got into this show, I was watching this show, and every episode I watched, I was desperately hoping that it would be good. I wanted this to be good. I wanted them to succeed in this, because we have not had an adaptation of Lord of the Rings since 2014, I believe, was Battle of the Five Armies, The Hobbit. I believe. But, actually, let me look this up real quick. Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies. Yeah, I had it right, 2014. Think about that. We have not had one since 2014. We've had a few things, like, say, for example, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. Both games I love to death, which I'll mention them another time. So, this was disappointing. There were some good. There are gems in this, gems. But this is just that's why I can describe this as a gem-covered diarrhea. That's what this is. My final verdict's got to be about probably a 3.5. I'll give the positives the benefit of the doubt on that. But my final verdict's a 3.5 out of 10. This was not that good. This show was not that good. I doubt it, but I hope that they do something better these next seasons, because I want this to succeed. I want them to redeem themselves, because Amazon is good, aside from a few other things. But please, Amazon, if you're watching this, please do better. We as fans love this. We love fantasy. We love Lord of the Rings. We love The Hobbit. We love everything Tolkien made. Please redeem yourselves for these next seasons. Please. Listen to the fans. Actually, you probably won't. You're probably going to take this video down, or any video that negatively discredits it, to give a negative review, even though it is a fair review. That obviously didn't help their case whenever this show released. So, yeah, 3.5 out of 10. I can't give it anything higher, but I can't give it anything lower, because I did enjoy some parts, but this show is not that good. Now to the spoilers. If you made this far in the video and you just want to hear the spoiler-free review, click off now. I do recommend give this show a watch to give your own opinion. That's how I look at it. Because don't just rely on critics, don't rely on audiences to come up with your own opinion. Everyone's got one. Everyone's got their own in-depth opinion on this. Please, I say give it a watch before you judge it. If you hate it, you hate it. If you like it, you like it. Because there are people that genuinely like this show. But I'm not one of them. But I'm giving it a fair shot. So please give it a fair shot and give your own take on it. I encourage that at least. So this is now going to be spoiler territory. If you don't want to be spoiled, click off now. Alright, so where to start on spoilers? Episode 1. I'll go episode by episode. Briefly about this. I'm gonna use my handy dandy electronic here to get it up, just so I keep an eye on it, because I know I don't remember every episode ever. So I'm gonna briefly get the synopsis of each episode, and I'll go over it based on what I read and what I remember and how I feel. So please bear with me on this. Alright, episode 1. And I do have the Wikipedia page of the episodes, so we can go through this as efficient as possible. Episode 1. We get Galadriel's backstory of who she was. And I'm not gonna cap. Valinor looks beautiful. It looks gorgeous. There are some instances where I can tell it's a blue screen, but it looks gorgeous. We get Kid Galadriel, and they kind of do something cliche with her. They do like the classic, I am the rebellious child that wants to do more stuff, and yada yada. Like basically a bad Disney princess. We get introduced to Finrod, her brother, who gives her words of wisdom as any older sibling would do until, because this takes place after Morgoth is defeated. Morgoth, also known as Melkor. If you know the character, you know the character. Then Sauron rises to power in his stead, and the whole war goes on. Finrod's killed. Galadriel takes up an oath to go hunt Sauron. Takes his dagger. You can probably see where it's going wrong with this. Galadriel's characterization is butchered. Because if I'm not mistaken, Galadriel is not a warrior. She was never a warrior in the books nor in the movies. I'm going to use my knowledge of the movies because I know the movies pretty much inside and out. If I get fact-checked, I get fact-checked. So please in the comments on that. Galadriel is not a warrior. She's this... How I see her is this, wise sage, this seer that has great mental capacity and great magical ability. Not physical swordsmanship. She was never that. If I'm not mistaken, in the book she was mainly like she was in the movie. Very powerful seer that could see, that had basically telepathy, that could see past, present, and future thanks to her mirror and whatnot. She was the mental power. She was not the physical power. Galadriel in this show does not have any of the magical properties that the movie or the books had. She uses a sword, she uses a dagger. And I could not connect with her this whole series. She tries to find Sauron, and again, not gonna cap, the whole cinematography is really good. I actually really liked it. And her squad that she leads mutinies against her because they don't want to search for Sauron anymore. I respect that. And thanks to Gil-galad, or Gil-galad, however we pronounce it, I believe it's Gil-galad, but if people correct me, please let me know. So they send her, Elrond and Gil-galad send her back to Valinor so she could, stop hunting for Sauron, because, you feed into vengeance, you feed into this anger, it's going to hurt you in the end. Pretty common sense there. She abandons the boat to go off on her own. And same episode, we get introduced to Arondir, one of the few OCs I actually did like. Basically, male elf in this world. And one thing I want to say is the design for the elves is, I don't like. Okay, the elves in the books valued their long hair. If it's not a female elf, they have short hair. You already see the problem here. Elves like their long hair. I'm not going to get too much into the inconsistencies of everything, but from what I know of it. But Arondir is this elf that's been designated to the Southlands for about 70 years. He becomes close with a human healer named Bronwyn, the mother of a child named Theo, who becomes a little important later on. And basically, it's more setup stuff for the denizens of Mordor, the orcs and whatnot. And Arondir is cool. He's one of the few characters I actually did like, because he's gonna be that guy. He's discount Legolas. But I actually did like him. His design with his short hair, I actually did like. But it would have been cool to see him with long hair. It would have been neat to see that. But we got what we got, and I do like him. The Southlands. Southlands are very interesting here. So Arondir finds a burial tunnel system made by orcs and goes to investigate. Then we get to episode 2. Episode 2, we get introduced to a few. This is the slowest episode ever. So because they love to spend their time with this one, trying to get you to like these characters, but it doesn't work for me. We get introduced to Celebrimbor, the Elven Smith, who the actor I really did like. He does a good Celebrimbor. Oh yeah, episode 1 we get introduced to Durin and Elrond. And if I'm being honest, Elrond and Durin, I'll get into it more later, but they are my favorite characters here. I always did like Elrond in the movies by Hugo Weaving. I thought he did a masterful job. And the guy that did Durin does really well. The dwarves have very strong Scottish accents. Like, very strong. Don't know if that was intentional, but not opposed. But just a little, like... I thought it was a Welsh accent, but who knows. And so we get introduced to Celebrimbor, who wants to build a forge. And Elrond says, "How about I ask my friend Durin to help us out?" They go to Khazad-dûm, not open arms, because it's revealed that Elrond has not visited Durin for 20 years. And I said before they were my favorite characters. Actually, as a matter of fact, most of the scenes, pretty much every scene they're in, I love. The chemistry they have together is... The chemistry and their writing is by far the most consistent. The writing in them, in their scenes, is the most consistent I have seen in the show. Their chemistry, I actually buy their friendship. Because, at first Durin's very pissed off about, you haven't seen me in 20 years. And, which is very understandable. 20 years is the blink of an eye for an elf, for an immortal elf. Dwarves do live for hundreds of years, but they are not immortal. And someone did the math. Because I recently rewatched their conversations because I love them. And some of the comments did the math. 20 years is, for them, it's like you haven't seen, it's the same as 6 years for us. Imagine how that feels. And I think they did that pretty well. In my opinion, at least. Yeah, imagine you leave your friend for 6 years, then you show up at their house, ask for something. How do you think they're going to react? Probably like Durin. So I'm glad that they did that. Though they do get along pretty fast after that, because Elrond is that nice of a guy. Durin knows he's a very honest and kept man. But it's very slow. This is very slow. Wait. No, I was right. Episode 2, we do get introduced to Durin and whatnot. So, we move on to episode 3. And... No, wait, I missed something in episode 2. Episode 2, we meet Halbrand, a Southlander who wanted to leave the Southlands because the orcs drove him off. He saves Galadriel from drowning in the ocean because she was a dumbass for jumping off the boat trying to swim back to Middle Earth, which is like few thousand miles. Like, if I was to actually, take, like, say, Earth's Atlantic or Pacific Ocean into account, like, as a reference point, about the distance from, say, like, Florida to Russia or some crap like that. Regardless, it's a good bit. She was a dumbass, by the way. And I do like Halbrand. I did like Halbrand. He was pretty interesting. Discount Aragorn from what, like, later episodes go. Because... And, alright, I had to get my thoughts back. I'm reading this Wikipedia page and doing this at the same time. Galadriel and Halbrand were on this raft, and they get attacked by this sea monster. They end up surviving, but they end up being saved by Elendil of Gondor. Except he's not the king of Gondor yet. As a matter of fact, he is a high captain of Numenor. If we remember Numenor was the ancient city that was destroyed after, if I remember correctly, Sauron attacked it. Again, I don't know everything about like the books and whatnot, so please fact check me on the minute details. But if I'm not mistaken, Numenor was attacked by Sauron. They got wiped off the map. But the ancient city of Numenor, they get there. Halbrand wants to stay there. Galadriel doesn't. She wants to get the shit. She wants to get Queen Air King's ships to go back to Middle Earth to save people. Halbrand doesn't. He wants to, stay chilling, which is understandable. It's revealed that after Galadriel insults the Queen and her people, and Halbrand gets into a full-on alley fight, that it's revealed that... Actually, no, hold on. After Halbrand gets into a fight and he gets imprisoned, Galadriel goes to an archive thanks to Elendil and finds out that Halbrand is the heir to the King of the Southlands, which is why he wears like a crest. But Halbrand says that he got it off a dead man. He denies it, and so it's like discount Aragorn. It's basically movie Aragorn's whole motive, why he didn't want to become King of Gondor. We do get introduced to Isildur and his sister. I forget how to say her name. It's right there, but I don't remember. But we get introduced to that, and I do like Isildur. Isildur in the show, I actually do kind of like. The producers compared him to Michael Corleone from The Godfather, and I can kind of see it from how he's acting and how the script is written with him in it. I can kind of see it, not entirely, because Michael Corleone is a legendary character, much like Vito Corleone. But I can see some of the similarities. So, episode 3, they do all of this. They want to get back to Middle Earth. In the meantime, episode 2 and 3, we get introduced to Eleanor Brandyfoot, also known as Nori, who's a Harfoot. Harfoots are a different type of hobbits. I actually did kind of like. She reminded me of a gender-bent Frodo or Bilbo. I actually did like Nori. And they're trying to just go on this weird migration, which I'm assuming is called the Grove, which I'm assuming will become the Shire, or Hobbiton. On their travels, she sees a falling star, which is basically just a meteor, land near her. And apparently there's a guy sitting there in the meteor. And, yeah. Episode 3, we get more of that into it, where we get more with who this guy that fell from the meteor. Episode 2, I'm going a little fast for myself. Arondir. Back to Arondir real quick. Episode 2, he gets captured by orcs. Episode 3, he's in a work camp, and by God, we see a warg. It looks like the crazy hyena from Lion King. This was something from, I think it was the Critical Drinkers video on Rings of Power, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to make sure, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was him, but when he said it, I agreed to full-heartedly. It looked so bad. And I remember the wargs from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and they looked cool. So we continue going on this, and we meet. Arondir kills the warg, tries to escape the war camp. Both his comrades die, that were also captured with him. But because of after he takes out the warg, he is then introduced to Adar, this elf that leads the orcs. And the elves, Arondir included, believed that it was Sauron because Sauron had many names. Which I was like, alright, that's kind of neat. At first I thought, this is Sauron, maybe this is. But the more I thought about it, it's not. It's a little too honest for my opinion. So, we get... my bad. So we get more into it. Episodes 4 and 5 are just like little setups with them trying to get to... with Galadriel and the others trying to get to Middle Earth. We get Nori and her adventure with the Stranger, which is basically just a wizard, essentially a magic wizard. Essentially just a magic wizard. So that's what I assumed whenever I saw him. Like, oh, he's one of the Istari, because it makes sense. We get more into it, and it's just more setup and more setup, and it keeps getting worse from there. It kind of wastes time doing all this setup, all this random stuff. One thing I did like was, I was a little confused, but I also did like was a broken sword hilt from Wardgoth's age. Theo, the son of Bronwyn that Arondir has a connection with, finds it, and he realizes that it can consume his blood to grow into its full length. At first, I thought this was a really crappy version of the Morgul blade, but the more I thought about it, I was like, it doesn't really work that way. So thankfully I was proven wrong in the later episodes. So we get revealed on all that stuff. Episode 5 happens, and this is where everything kind of shifts towards more of the progression. Numenor, I hated this section because everyone's kind of trying to, because Galadriel convinced everybody like, oh yeah, we need to go there, and Numenorians are like, yeah, let's go. So we're doing a sparring match, right? They're training. Galadriel offers to teach a couple things. And she gives the worst advice I have ever heard someone say. There are many ways to kill an orc. But take them down by a stab, twist, gut. What? That is the exact opposite of what you should do to kill an orc. If y'all remember Fellowship of the Ring, Lurtz, the Uruk commander, who was a movie original, I believe. I could be wrong. But do you know how much it took to kill him? He had his arm taken out, and he got impaled by Aragorn. Had a knife through the leg. You said thrust, twist, and gut. The dude was impaled by a longsword, man. And he pulled it closer to intimidate Aragorn before getting decapitated. That's what you should have said, is the best way to kill an orc is decapitate the dude. Like, it was so bad. And the choreography was so bad. Ugh, I'm not actually trained in swordsmanship, but so bad. As a matter of fact, Shadiversity, YouTube channel called Shadiversity, he is a medieval weapons. I don't know the exact way to describe his channel, but he does choreography analysis of different fight scenes. He did one for Anakin versus Obi-Wan, which I'll put a link in the description for his channel, so you can go watch it for yourself. And so please support his channel. But yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad. So we get more into it. Excuse me. And we get in, and on Elrond's side of the story, it's revealed that Durin the Fourth, Prince Durin found Mithril, a new ore that they call Mithril. Apparently has magical properties. I was like, okay, I guess I can go with this here. And apparently Gil-galad knew this and wanted them to mine it so they could save, because apparently, this was the kicker, apparently the elves are dying in Middle-earth. Because they are losing the light of Valinor in Middle-earth. Huh? You guys are immortal. I don't think you're dying from this. Someone please explain that to me. But regardless, we get revealed to this, and Elrond proposes this to Durin the Third, King Durin, and he declines in private with his son, and it's just it keeps getting worse from there. Apparently, it's revealed that Adar is not Sauron later on, which is pretty obvious the more I think about it. And yeah, episode 5 was just bad. We get to episode 6, and I know I'm not going through everything in an episode because I do not want to take 2 hours to explain this shit or try to explain this shit. Episode 6 happens, and we get to a big battle that was set up for Arondir's side because the orcs are trying to attack the Southlanders because they refuse to bend the knee towards Adar, which is fine. It's fine. And the orcs attack a watchtower that they held up in. So it was like kind of reminiscent to Helm's Deep, but excuse me, did not sleep well. So it was very reminiscent to Helm's Deep, but not very much so, because Helm's Deep is a masterpiece in fight scenes. Arondir takes out, like, I don't know how many, before, making a tower fall on them. And it's just... We get into it more, and the more we think about it, Númenóreans, Galadriel, and everything, Halbrand takes his mantle as the king to help these people. They get to the Southlands, and it's a big old fight scene with the Southlanders and the orcs, and then Númenóreans come in as cavalry. Adar gets the hilt because all this nonsense of all this. He gets the hilt and gets captured by Galadriel and Halbrand. Halbrand tries to kill him because apparently he has a bad beef with this dude. We get more into it. Apparently they think they've won, but apparently someone of the Southlands that was a Sauron loyalist had the broken hilt. Adar had a decoy, and he has that guy use it, and it's revealed that this sword is a key, and when they use it, it causes a massive flooding, go into like channels that go into a dormant volcano to make it erupt. You see where it's going? The Southlands turn into Mordor. And I thought it was actually pretty cool visually wise. I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting. This is interesting. But yeah. It's just... And apparently Adar goes by as an Uruk. Because Uruks were elves corrupted by Morgoth. Even though we see that Uruks are very orc-based. And he reveals that he killed Sauron because of the cruelty he had against his own orcs. Okay. Surprised you were able to take out Sauron, which I thought was BS until thankfully I was proven right that it was BS. Or maybe it wasn't. I'll think of something in a moment. So we get to episode 7. And basically we get into it more. On Nori's side of the story, apparently because she hid the stranger from her own people, her and her family are put in the back of the line during the migration. And if they're in the back of the line and they fall behind, they get left behind. Pretty fucked up, I know. The stranger helps them out because, he's a nice guy. And he decides to leave. Because he was able to... Because his magical powers are really cool. One thing that I actually did like was the magical powers that they use for him. He helps defend them against wolves with an awesome shockwave. It bruises his arm and he heals it. He scares Nori by accident because she sees his arm freezing and thought it was bad. Apparently it just blows her back because of the shockwave. And she's scared of him. And they get to the grove. It's basically destroyed because of the volcano. the stranger ends up healing a tree by accidentally breaking it and almost killed Nori and a younger one. So he goes off on his own because he feels like he's a peril. It's revealed that, it's that there are 3 people searching for him. I don't know their names. I forgot their names, nor do I really care. Their costumes were pretty cool, and they go after him because they. And I'm just gonna go through 7 and 8 real quick. It is revealed that these 3 are looking for the stranger because they believe he is Sauron come back. Nori tries to throw him off, but they find out everything already because they're magical and they're pretty smart about this stuff. They get into a whole thing. They tell the stranger, "Oh, you're Sauron. You're this evil dude. You're this powerful guy." He believes he is until Nori and the other Harfoots help him out. And it's revealed that, oh, I am not Sauron. And again, the Harfoots I actually did like. Nori I did really like. There was one called Sabak and Sadok. Yeah, Sadok. Sadok I did like. He was the elder of the group, and he gets mortally wounded trying to defend the other Harfoots. And the Harfoots have strong Irish accents. They have if I'm not mistaken, it's Irish, but I could be completely wrong. But aside from the point, the stranger is revealed because Nori steals one of the 3's magical staff, gives it to the stranger. It's revealed that it's not Sauron. He is the other, an Ishtar, the Ishtar, and he blows them all away. And he has a terrible line because he says, "From shadow you came, to shadow I bid you return." I actually did like that line, but he says, "I'm good," because that was a line from before that Nori says you're good, basically meaning you're a good guy. Didn't really work here, in my opinion, at least. So it goes on, and after all this, because the stranger, the Ishtar, he is slowly getting his memory back, and he didn't talk a whole lot. Now he's kind of getting his speech back, but after he gets the staff and does all this, his memory has come back. He has now fluent speech, and now he knows like I have more cognitive being. I can find this stuff. Apparently, he was looking for a constellation, and it's revealed that this constellation is a symbol for Rune, for a place called Rune, and he's about to set off. Nori is about to go with her family, but they give her a bag and they say that you're part of something bigger now. You go with this. You go with the Ishtar. And I did like it. I did like this little ending for her. Sadok sadly passes because he was mortally wounded, but it was, and yeah. And the stranger, the Ishtar, they're about to set off, and he says, like, I don't know where to go. And he's like, this way. Nori asks, why? The Ishtar says, there's a sweet smell in the air. When in doubt, Eleanor Brandyfoot, always follow your nose. That is a callback to Gandalf, to Meriadoc Brandybuck, when they were in Moria. So and you could tell that a lot of theories are like, oh, this guy is Gandalf. He's Gandalf. I don't really know. A lot of people are theorizing that it's Sauron. And the more I look at him, sorry about the pause. And but the more I look at the actor for the Ishtar, he looks a lot more like Sauron. Looks a lot like Christopher Lee, with a bit of Ian McKellen. So, and the biggest theory of all is, one I'm kind of behind, is that he's one of the blue wizards. One of the blue wizards that were sent. But I'm excited to see him more with Nori, because I actually do like their chemistry, their interactions. So that's the end of their story. Elrond and Durin, my favorite chemistry of all. They go on because of the Mithril and all this stuff. Durin the Fourth is against his father because he's basically letting these people to die and just the acting is so good. The prosthetics on the actor's face for Prince Durin is really good. One of the scenes is whenever Elrond is told that the king denied their request to be healed, to be saved. And it's very emotional because he accepts it. He's like, well, you're my friend. I'm okay with this. And Nadia is a Elvish word for goodbye or farewell, but it also means go towards goodness. I did like that. Durin is very sad that his friend that he finally meets 20 years later is about to leave forever. And one big clue was a bleeding leaf, and because Elrond was given a piece of mithril as a token of friendship, he gives it back to Durin. Durin slides it across the table, and it's next to the leaf. It heals the leaf. Both Durin and his wife Disa, which I'll get into in a moment with Disa, because I know that's a big thing. But the acting with that is so good. And they mine it without the consent of the king. The king finds them. They seal up the cave and basically renounces Durin's royalty, banishes the elf, Elrond. So that's how that works. He tells them to seal it up, and it's revealed that there's a Balrog underneath everything. And everyone's assuming, and I can see it, it's Durin's Bane, the Balrog that kills Gandalf during their massive battle. I can't wait to see that. So that's about how that goes. Let me get into Disa real quick. Disa is not... Her actress is fine. I'm okay with the actress. But the thing is, it's the science behind her. A lot of people were complaining because the actress is black and it's a black dwarf without any facial hair. That's a big thing that I'm just up against, is the whole thing like dwarves have beards. Children dwarves have beards. Female dwarves have beards. I'm not going to get into that very much. The actress did a good job. I think she did a pretty good job. My thing is with the whole black argument is I'll look at it from the science part of it, because dwarves live in the mountains. You get that pigmentation because of the sun. From the sun, tanning and whatnot. From my knowledge, at least. I know I'm probably going to get a little bit of flack for this, but if I look at the science behind this, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense with the casting. But the actress did a good job. I do not hold anything else against her for that. I was just a little concerned because dwarves live in the mountains. It's just they would be more paler in skin tone, not darker. But aside from that, I think she did a pretty good job. I think she did a pretty good job as Princess Disa, and I don't hate her. I don't hate the actors. I just hate the writing. That's it. That's my main thing with this. And the biggest thing is Galadriel's side of the story. Halbrand is wounded during the battle by a spear. He gets taken to Eregion by Galadriel. He meets Celebrimbor after he's healed. You see what's going on with this? It is revealed that he is not an heir to the Southlands. He is Sauron. Or Anatar. The fair form of Sauron. But it's Halbrand, not Anatar. So, when we get this, and I'm going to be honest, we get this cool confrontation with Galadriel and Sauron. And it's a cool mental thing. He uses memories and all this other stuff to try and get her to sway her to him. Because he's a big deceiver. A lot of people are worried because he's, people are shipping the two together, yada yada. I'm like, okay, and I don't really see that much. You deceived me, well, I'm telling you the truth. There's kind of the back and forth here and there. Their chemistry was actually pretty cool. I kind of see it, but not at the same time, obviously. But Sauron, when it's revealed that he's Sauron, you could tell that he's really trying to keep the manipulation going. It's really good. As a matter of fact, and the whole mental thing was really cool. He uses an illusion of them on the raft, and the camera turns upside down to reveal the reflections, and Halbrand has the whole horned helmet that Sauron actually has. I thought that was very neat. I thought that was really cool. The more I thought about it, the more it alludes back to Fellowship of the Ring whenever the One Ring is being offered to Galadriel and she gives that whole other speech. So, I thought that was a little neat. And he leaves, goes to Mordor, you know. Elrond finds out about this because of the same scroll that Galadriel had that revealed that he was not an heir, that the bloodline of the king died out. They do not tell Celebrimbor because they need to keep making the rings. They're making the rings, and someone gives this whole suggestion, maybe we make it like this. I actually did like that. I did like that because throughout the show he's shown to be a good smith. That's fine. And to make this thing with mithril or whatever to these powerful rings, which will be the elven rings. 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky. And they need gold and silver of the purest quality from Valinor. And what's made of it is Galadriel's dagger given that she took from her brother Finrod. So they melt that down and it turns into the 3 rings. Ninya, Nadia, and I keep forgetting what the blue ring is called. I'll look it up later. But they make the 3 rings. Sauron's in Mordor. Adar's escaped because after a while he has escaped. And that's it. That's how it ends. So going through this, you can tell that I was excited for a few parts. Durin and Elrond, when they said their farewell, I actually almost teared up, because I actually did like their relationship. I bought it. So, you could do good stuff with this. But, good set of bad execution. You have the money. You can have the ability. The fact that they ghosted Peter Jackson to make this what it is. Come on. Get Peter Jackson on this, Amazon. You need him. Well, I'm not going to force that need on there, but get him on board. Get him on board. He can help a lot. He made some of the greatest movies that we have seen in times. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is probably by far one of the greatest film trilogies of all time. You kind of missed opportunity here, guys. But there are a lot of good on here. There can be. I see it. I want them to do good with this. I want that. But how they did it here, it's a bad fan fiction. This is more fan fiction than Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. And the main character, Talion, is by far one of the most powerful mortals in Tolkien's universe. Yet that feels more canon than this. How? I'll tell you why. Because they kept more in line with the books than Rings of Power did. They kept more to Anatar, to Sauron's manipulation properly. And it made a little bit of sense. I could see it. Rings of Power, I can see somewhat. But Shadow of Mordor and onward, I can see more. So I want this to be good. But overall, it's not. This is a gym-covered diarrhea. And it's ass. It's a terrible show. Critics are wrong. This is not an 85 on Rotten Tomatoes. This is not that good. It's not. It looks good, but it's shit. It's a diamond-covered shit. That's what it is. From how happy I was talking about it, does it bump my rating up? No. It's a 3.5 out of 10. And I say give this show a watch. Give your own take. I always encourage to give your own take on this, because we need people to think more about their own opinions than just blindly trust stuff. So please give this a watch to give your own opinion. If you want to, please. That has been my video, my review of Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power on Amazon. Please leave a like if you did like this video. Please subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff. I am going to be doing reviews of the other seasons when they come out. So please leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications when a video comes out. And hope to see you next time. Please comment down below what your thoughts of the show was. And if I missed a couple things, please let me know. Please let me know, because I want to make this better for all of us. So, thank you guys for sticking around. I know it's been a long video. I had words as someone who's very passionate about this. So, thanks for sticking around. I hope to see you guys next time, and peace out.